Welcome back to Take Action News, everybody. David Shuster here. We were talking, of course, about the gun violence yesterday in Connecticut, and we're pleased to be joined by another host of We Act Radio, Charles Showalter. He hosts the Union Edge every Monday through Friday, noon to 3. You can hear him on We Act Radio. Charles has got a show that's all about the sort of union and family issues, but he's also a gun owner. And Charles, I want to start there. As a gun owner, somebody who believes in protecting the Second Amendment, what do you make of some of the calls for gun control and closing the gun show loophole?
You know, David, let me take a step back from that question just for a second. I am a veteran, a combat veteran. I served in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, career military, law enforcement officer, former president of the National Homeland Security Council that represented the vast majority of working folks in the Department of Homeland Security. The first tenet of law enforcement is to protect life. Pure, simple, protect life. There are situations right now in this country where our gun control laws are not where they should be. As a former military member, as a former law enforcement officer, if I demonstrated mental or emotional problems, one of the things would be done is my weapon, my duty carry, or my military weapon would be restricted from me. It would be taken away. You know, we've all seen it. Give me your gun, give me your badge. We do not have anything similar to that for civilian gun owners. Now, in the military and as a civilian law enforcement officer for the Department of Homeland Security, for the Department of Justice, I went through very rigorous training. It was instilled upon me as an 18-year-old, when you carry a gun in the performance of your duties, that is a solemn responsibility. That standard is not extended to our civilian gun owners. We need to make sure, number one, firearms are registered. If you lose your firearm, if it is stolen, it needs to be reported. There are other things along this line. Listen, owning a gun is part of our culture here in the United States. However, gun ownership has dwindled per capita. There are, generally speaking, less people owning guns these days, but those people who own firearms own more than they used to. There are people hoarding firearms with the thought, the potential, the idea that the government's going to come in and take their firearms. I don't think the government wants to do that. I think what the voting public in this country wants to do is make sure that people understand, number one, owning a firearm, there are responsibilities behind that. And there should be consequences if you do not do it in an appropriate way. You know, we don't want anybody shooting up the backyard in the middle of the night after they've had a couple. There are responsibilities with rights. We need to move our nation collectively towards that. Now, yes, there are going to be some people who scream loudly in regards to this. We can have those discussions. But I think over the last couple of years, we have seen people who disagree with other people pick up a firearm and use that as a method to end the conversation.
We're talking with Charles Showalter. He's the host of the Union Edge Labor's Talk Radio. It's the program airs noon to 3, Monday through Friday, right here on We Act Radio. Charles, one of the weapons that was used was a 223 caliber rifle. I believe it's an assault type of weapon. I don't know of hunters that use semi-automatic assault weapons in their hunting. I mean, as far as I know, it is simply a weapon of war. Is that right?
Well, David, the .223 caliber is the weapon or the round of choice for the infantrymen and everybody else within the United States military. It is the NATO standard for a rifle. Now, let me take a step back. Yes, The .223 round is a highly effective round. It is designed to impart the maximum potential energy on your target. It's often called a varmint round. Not many deer hunters use it. You'll see groundhog hunters and stuff like that use it. It's not really designed to knock down a large animal such as a deer or a bear. Mm-hmm. People who use that kind of round, they're not using it for big game. It is a highly effective combat and law enforcement round. Okay? When mated with an AR-15, an M16, an M4, or other U.S. military and NATO military rifles, it is a very good combat round. But, David, we're talking about technicalities or deficiencies with weapons. I think, personally, we need to take a step back from the weapons themselves. We need to identify the criteria that we here in the United States are willing to put onto people who want to own weapons. For instance, if you want to buy a gun, okay, fine. No problem. Let's make sure, number one, you're not a felon. Number two, you don't have anger issues. Number three, so on and so forth. Let's take a look at the individual, not necessarily the piece of equipment. Because I would assert to you that even if you had an M16 with a 30-round magazine sitting in, hopefully, a secure position inside somebody's home, the weapon itself is not going to be the problem. It is the person, the individual, who is willing to pick that weapon up and use it in a manner that is not appropriate.
Charles, one of the things I want to ask you before we let you go, and I'm going to point out to all of our listeners and viewers that we're going to have Charles back on next week to talk about Michigan, because that's a very important issue. But I want to sort of buttonhole the conversation about guns, and that, Charles, as somebody who's been in law enforcement, one of the things that struck me last night in Connecticut was hearing the police talk about how the first responders who came on the scene were so horrified by what they saw in the kindergarten class, the carnage, that those first responders were badly shaken, are undergoing grief counseling themselves. As somebody who has been involved in law enforcement, can you even imagine what it's like for even hardened law enforcement officers to see the kind of scene that they saw last night in that kindergarten class?
David, it is going to be absolutely devastating for those officers, and God bless them. They take law enforcement, our cops, our firemen, our paramedics, they don't take the jobs for the money and the glory. They take those jobs because they care about their community. And I guarantee you, those officers went into that scene. They saw what they saw. They buried it. They knew they had to do a job. They took care of that job. And now, just like all of our first responders on 9/11 are going to have to deal with those issues, and they are going to need our community and collective support.
And the best way for law enforcement, I assume there are all sorts of resources for law enforcement officers, so anybody who's seen something this traumatic, there are resources that they can avail themselves of?
There should be. There should be those resources available to them within the community. We hope that they will avail themselves of those resources, and, we need to support all of our cops, firemen, paramedics, and the rest of our first responders. And one thing I want to say, David, not for nothing, we had teachers, people who care about our children in this country, that died trying to protect them.
Yeah. Charles, we're going to have you on back next week because, again, the issues with Michigan are so crucial about the right to work legislation there, and we'll talk with you again next week. But you can listen to Charles Showalter Monday through Friday, Labor's Talk Radio, the Union Edge, right here on We Act Radio. Charles, thanks for being with us. Have a great weekend, my friend.
It's always a pleasure, David. Look forward to talking to you on Monday.
We'll talk to you Monday. Take Action News continues after this.